Hi there. Welcome back to my channel. This is episode 2, and today we are going to learn to crochet. In this channel, I am going to share with you my process, my creative process, as truthfully and transparently as possible so that you can see all the ups and downs that come along with creating. I want you to feel like you're not alone when you hit a bump or two during your creative process, and how we kind of push through and work through that together, and the things that we learn and grow from those ups and downs. So as mentioned, today we are going to learn to crochet. We are going to learn how to make a dishcloth. Now, this process, I think I'm going to divide it up into 2 parts. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to divide it up into 2 videos, but there'll be a part 1 and a part 2 to learning how to crochet a dishcloth. Now, I want to preface this that just like learning anything new, it can be a little challenging in the beginning, and I want you to promise yourself that you are going to push through that little bumpy spot. I've taught many people to crochet, and they will all, well, for the most part, agree that there's this one little part that can be a little challenging, but once you get a hang of it, then it's smooth sailing from there. And once you've done your dishcloth, you can do anything. You can make literally anything. So this is really the way to open the door to this new craft if it is new to you, or maybe you're revisiting it and have forgotten a few things. You'll see after this, you can do anything. I'd like to point out that like any hobby or craft, it can get a little pricey. Patterns, yarn. So I want to try and share with you some of my tips and tricks, and please, those of you watching who also share this hobby or knitting, maybe you can share with us some of your tips and tricks on how to kind of save a little money in this process. Right off the bat, I often share a particular YouTube channel that I've been following, I would say close to 5 years now. She is absolutely wonderful. She's a phenomenal teacher. Her name is Crystal, and her channel is called Bag O Day. I'll put it in the description box afterwards if you want to follow up. She has tons, I think it's over 1,500 tutorials free on her channel. Patterns, sweaters, scarves, blankets, hats, you name it. So once you are done this dishcloth, I strongly encourage you to visit her channel and pick a pattern, pick a project, and dive right into it. You will see the way she explains, the way she teaches is phenomenal. 100%. You will be able to make whatever project you choose. 100%. I promise you. So if you're ready, we're going to flip over to the tutorial, and I will go through the items that you need to make this project. We're going to go through step by step, and I'm going to try and chunk it into parts because, you know, when you're learning something, you need to practice. So there'll be points throughout the tutorial that I will encourage you to pause the video and to go and practice what it is that I've shown you, and to come back to it. Come back to it, not necessarily in 5 minutes, but maybe the next day if you feel that you need that break in order to, you know, absorb, process, and practice those few steps to begin with. Okay? Learning something new doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and it takes practice, but please promise yourself not to give up. Push through this. You can do difficult things, and you'll see at the end, in retrospect, it may not have been that difficult. And trust me, you will be very proud of what you've accomplished. Let's go. Let's do this. Okay, so here we go. Here's the dishcloth that we are going to make. Okay, it's, like I said, it's very basic. It'll be very useful, and you'll be quite proud of yourself after having finished this project. So, what do you need in order to do this project? You will need a crochet hook. The crochet hook that I have is a 5.5 millimeter. You can use a 5 millimeter crochet hook. That would be just fine. The one that I'm using is a clover. You don't have to have a clover crochet hook. You can have like the crochet hooks that are all metal. This is an ergonomic one. You'll see once you get into this craft, you will eventually discover that you have a favorite hook because some of the hooks have different heads. Some are much sharper, and this one is a little rounder. This is my preference. But part of learning this craft is learning what it is that you prefer. Anyways, so you'll need a crochet hook. 5 millimeter or 5.5 millimeter works fine. And you will need a ball of 100% cotton yarn. We don't want acrylic for this. We want cotton yarn. So how do you know what you're looking for? So I'm just going to show you another ball of yarn. This is not cotton. This is another type of yarn that you can use for other projects, but not a dishcloth. Now, all yarns have a label, and on the label you will find specific information. How many meters or yards of the yarn you have. You will have a little ball of yarn here, and inside that ball of yarn there will be a number. This is a number 4, which usually corresponds to a worsted weight yarn. So the cotton yarn you're going to get needs to have a number 4 in that little picture of a ball of yarn. Okay. You'll also find the recommended needle size if you're knitting, or hook size if you're crocheting. Now, these are simply recommendations. You'll learn as you go along that you can use pretty much any hook size. And what happens is it'll give you a different kind of fabric, either a denser fabric, a looser fabric that affects the drape, on and on. You'll learn more about that as you go along. And then what it shows you as well is the composition of the yarn. In this case, it's 100% acrylic. You want to have 100% cotton. Okay? Now, first things first. My yarn is a bit of a mess. So, when you have your ball of yarn and the yarn that goes to the ball of yarn, we call that the working yarn. Okay? So, we're going to put that to the side. And then we're going to find the end of the yarn. And we're getting there, slow but sure. Here we go. This is the end. So we are going to learn how to do a slip knot because that's how we have to start all projects. You start with a slip knot. So I'm going to get you to hold the end of the yarn in your hand like this, and you're going to kind of anchor it there with your thumb. Then you're going to turn your hand and you're going to wrap the yarn twice. So you've got 2 loops over your index finger, and then you're going to anchor it again with your thumb. Now, you're then going to take the yarn that is to your left. You're going to pick it up and you're going to pull it over that other piece of yarn. Okay? Then you're going to take again the yarn that's now to your left, and you're going to pull it over that other piece. You are now going to straighten your index finger, and you have now created a slip knot. The way you know you've created a slip knot is if you pull on both ends of the yarn, and it undoes. Magic. Okay, so let's do that again. The end of your yarn is laying in front of all your fingers on the inside of your hand. You are anchoring it with your thumb. Now you're going to separate your index finger away from the rest of your fingers so that you can wrap the yarn twice around. It doesn't have to be tight, okay? Because you need to be pulling and moving it. So you're gently wrapping it around. bringing it so that your thumb can still hold on to it. So both parts of the yarn are now anchored. You're going to take the yarn that is to the left, pull it over that piece of yarn, left, over your finger, and pull up. And you now have a slip knot. Now there are many ways of making a slip knot. That's just one that I found probably the easiest and the most consistently successful for people learning to do a slip knot. Okay, now when I teach my students how to do a slip knot, I tell them, okay, undo it, now go do it 10 more times. The reason being is that you want the idea of a slip knot to be very comfortable and that you can do it time and time again without having to come back to a tutorial to see how to make a slip knot. Okay, so if you want to follow my suggestion, pause the video, go and make 10 slip knots, and then come on back. Okay, so welcome back if you have paused the video. If not, and you're ready to roll, here we go. Remember I told you there was a part that was going to be a little bit challenging? Here it is. The challenging part is at first learning how to handle and maneuver your tools and your yarn. At first you're going to feel like as if you're all thumbs and you can't get it right. Don't worry about it. Remember, it's practice and we'll get there. Now, holding your hook. I hold my hook like a knife. Some people hold their hook like a pencil. It's going to be up to you to find which way you find most comfortable. And through this learning process, this is the time to figure it out. Okay? So I hold it like a knife. Oh, I forgot to mention. If you are left-handed, please leave me a message down below if you want a left-handed tutorial. I am not left-handed, but I have taught some people how to crochet left-handed. It's doable. I can do it if that's what you would like for me to do. So just let me know if you want a left-handed tutorial. Okay, so now we have the end of our yarn and we have our working yarn, which is going towards our ball. We now have to learn to tension our yarn. That means to keep the yarn at a consistent tension so that we can crochet easily and create a nice product. So I'm going to get you to lay your hand out, separate your fingers, put the yarn over your ring finger, under your middle, over your index. Now you see how close my hook is to my index finger? I don't want you all the way over here, okay? So let's do it again. Over ring, under middle, over index. There we go. Okay, now what you're going to do is I tend to tell my students to do a karate chop. So you're going to turn your hand. And again, look how close I am to my hook. I'm going to now bend my hand. Okay. My middle finger and my thumb are going to hold on to the knot, not the loop on my hook, but the knot. Okay. Let's do that again. Over, under, over, twist. And then you're going to hold the knot with your middle finger and your thumb. You're going to extend your index finger so that you have a straight line of yarn here, because what you're going to do is you're then going to place your hook in front of your yarn, under and around, and you're going to pull it towards the loop. Now, when you get close to the loop, you're going to twist your hook down to pull through the loop. And then you're going to pull up a little bit because you're going to want to make your loop, a little bit bigger so that you can move easily through it. Again, in front, under and around, pull towards your loop, As you approach it, twist down and pull through. Okay, and then pull up a little bit. Now, what you're going to do then is you're now going to move your index and your thumb up closer. Again, just below the loop. You're not holding the loop in your hook, you're holding just below. It gives you some control. So again, in front of my yarn, under, around, towards the loop, twist, and pull through. These are called, this stitch is called a chain. And that's the beginning of every project. Okay, so in front, under and around, and twist and pull through. Now, some of you are going to want to maybe cheat a little bit, and I'm not even going to show you how to cheat because I don't want you to do it. It's really important. There are other ways to do a chain that might seem easier at first, but in the long run, it's going to make life more difficult. Okay, so it's really important that you hold your yarn properly. And again, there's different ways of holding your yarn, but this is the one that I'm choosing to show. Your hook in front, under and around, pulling towards the loop, twist and pull through. Okay, so normally when I'm teaching my students this, I get them to do 20 chains. So you're going to be concentrating on how to make all these loops here. And then you're going to say, well, how do I know when I get to 20? Because you're going to lose count. So when we learn to crochet knit, we learn to read our work. Okay, so let me just grab my glasses here. What you're going to do is you're going to have a look at the chain that you've created. And you're going to see V's. Each V, do you see that V there? Here, I'll do this. That V is down and up, down and up, down and up. Do you see that? Each one of those V's is a stitch. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's one way of counting your chains. There's another way. If you turn your chain over to the side, you will see these little bumps. I think I have 11 chains here, but anyways, we'll count again. So there's 1 bump, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There you go. So sometimes it's easier to feel for the bumps if you're having a hard time looking for the V's. Okay, so both ways work just fine. Sounds good? That's a chain. So I tell my students, do 20, then you're going to undo it. We call this ripping your work or frogging your work. Why frogging? Rip it, rip it, rip it. Sorry, I always think that's funny. Okay, so there we go. So now I would suggest is the perfect time for you to pause the video, and then you are going to create a chain row of 20 chains. Do that like 5 times, because what you want, as I should have told you this before, but what you want is you want consistency in the size of your chains. So what does that look like? I'll show you real quick. 1, 2, whoops. It's quite unique looking at your work through the camera. Look what I did. See, this is perfect. I started crocheting with the end of my yarn, not my working yarn. I don't know how many times I've done that in knitting and crochet. Oh my gosh, it's so frustrating, especially when, let's say, the end of your yarn is quite long and then you have to undo it. What a pain. Okay, there you go. There's the truth. That happens. So I'm working with my working yarn, not my end. Get that out of the way. Okay, so you're making your chains. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you want a consistent size in your chains. You do not want something like I'm going to show you here. You do not want like big chains, small chains, medium chains. You want it to be as consistent as possible, not inconsistent. So you're going to do this, like I said, 20 chains 5 times, and then come back for the next part where we will learn how to do a single crochet. So welcome back. You've now practiced your chain, and your chain is nice and consistent. See, I've got one that's not. So you want to have as many of them as consistent in size as possible. You also want to make sure that they're not too tight, because now working our single crochet, we need to get our hook into those chains. Okay, so learning to single crochet, typically what we do is, this is our loop on our hook. The first V after that is our first chain after the hook, and we are going to insert our crochet hook into the second chain. So there's V1, V number 2, so that's our second chain. We're going to insert our hook into that chain. And you see how I have one loop on here? That's okay. Now there's my yarn. I'm going to scoot under it, and I'm going to grab it and pull it through that loop. And again, remember, you're using your middle finger and your thumb to kind of stabilize things. You now have 2 loops on your hook. Your hook is now in front of the yarn like it was when we were chaining. So you're going to go under and around again. You're going to grab the yarn and you're going to pull through both those loops. That's it. That's a single crochet. Okay, so now we're going to do one in the next chain. So you see how that yarn is coming out of that space right there? That's the one we've just finished. We're looking for the next space next to it, and that's where we're going to put our hook. That's the next chain. Hook in, we come out under that yarn, we simply grab it and pull it through. Now I'm going to reposition my middle finger and my thumb to hang on to the work so that I can pull up a little bit. And remember, we're doing that so it'll be easier for us to pull through, right? I'm now in front of my yarn. My face of my hook is looking at me. I'm going under and around, pulling the yarn towards the loops and turning downward again, pulling it through. There's my second single crochet. Again, have a look, read your work. The yarn is coming through that loop. That's the one we've already finished. So we're going into the next one. In we go. We come out under the yarn. The hook is facing us. I imagine a little face, and like that's the nose. So it grabs the yarn, twist down, pull through, reposition middle finger and thumb, pull up so that we can make space in that loop. You see how we've got space there? We're now in front of the yarn like we were when we were doing our chain. So in front, under and around, pull towards the loops, twist downward, and pull through. And pull up, okay? Now, you might run into some issues. So let's have a look at some of the difficulties you might run into. So you're going in, maybe it's like twisting everywhere. You don't want your things to twist. You want to keep your chain nice and flat. So all the V's are facing you. You don't want to twist your chain because then your work all starts to twist and it gets to be a big mess. Okay, so it's always important to feel your work. Make sure that everything is straight and flat and not twisted. You're going to go into that next space. You're going to grab your yarn. You're going to pull it through. Now, if you don't pull up, and you see how we're like getting all really close here, it's okay to kind of retension your yarn. If you don't pull up, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have to fight to pull it through, and you're going to get frustrated. pull up. You're not pulling up all the way to here. You're just pulling up so that you have, you know, a big enough space for your hook to get through, okay? And I don't know if you picked up on what I just did there. If I pull on my hook, pull up on my hook, it makes my loop bigger. If I pull on my finger with the yarn, it makes my loop smaller. So I'm creating, you know, a tighter space. So we want one that's comfortable, that we can see, so that we'll be able to get our hook through. So here we go again. Into our loop, grab our yarn, pull it through. Reposition your fingers. Thumb, middle finger, stabilize so that you can pull up. In front, under, and around. Pull towards, twist down, and pull through. Okay? That's a single crochet. That's it. So you're going to keep doing that all the way to the end. Now, if you did 20 chains and went into the second chain from the hook, then you should have 19 single crochets by the time you get to the end. So you keep working and I'll keep working. I'll get to the end and I'll meet you back here so that we can have a look at how to count our stitches, as well as how to make sure we're not missing the last stitch. Okay? So I'll see you back here when you're ready. Okay, so here we are. And I've done a single crochet in that space. And you see that last V here? You're going to go there and do your last single crochet. Okay, and that's your slip knot right there. So I'm just going to pull up so I don't lose my stitch. And now we're going to look at how to count our stitches. Okay, so now let's have a look at the beginning. I'm just kind of spreading things so that you can have a clearer view of what's going on. So this is your first single crochet. You see the V up at the top? There's another one. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So that's how you look and count your stitches, is you're looking at the V's. You can't forget that one at the very beginning. Okay? So it's that simple, really. It's not complicated. Okay? Now, how do we do the next row? Well, this is what we're going to do. So we've done our last one. You're going to do a chain stitch. So under and around, pull through. And now you're going to take your work and you are going to flip it. So now we're going to come across that way. Okay. Now, we are going to go into our very first stitch. So I'm going to try and turn this here so you can see it. This is your chain right there. This is your first stitch. So put your finger there so you don't lose it. Now, this is where it looks different than the last row we did, but this is how every row after this is going to look. Okay, so do you see that hole right there? That's our first stitch. And if I put my hook through it, I'm going to have 2 legs. I'm going to have my V on top of, my yarn is splitting so it's hard to see. It'll be easier for the next one. But you see, you've got that V there. So those 2 legs are now on top of your hook, as well as the loop that we started with. So again, in the stitch, I'm under the yarn, I'm grabbing it, and I'm pulling it through. and pulling it up. I'm now in front of my yarn, under and around, twist as I pull through both loops. There you go. So that's my first single crochet. Do you see that? We've got 2 legs in that hole. That's where my single crochet is. Now, where am I doing my next one? Well, turn. Do you see the next V right there? Turn again. That corresponds to that hole right there. And when I go into the hole, I'm going to have both legs of the V on top of my hook. I'm going to grab my yarn, pull it through, pull it up a little bit, under and around, pull through both loops. There's my second single crochet. Okay, where am I going next? Have a look. Not sure, twist, where's my V? Okay, there's my V. So that means I'm going into that section right there to have both legs on my hook. Under and around, pull through, pull up, pull through. There you go. That's it. And you keep going. And you'll see this is a little bit easier, in my opinion. Because if you're looking, you know, you've got like the clump of the stitch right here. So you're going into that next little divot and you're pulling through, up, pull through. Again, where are you going? You're going into that, here's the stitch, the clump of the stitch, and you're going into the next divot. Okay? And you do that all the way to the end. So I'm going to keep going. If you want to slow down the video, you can. If you want to pause it, you can. That's what the beauty of these videos are. I'm going slowly all the way to the end. And I'll show you how to make sure you have your last stitch. Now, I don't know if you remember when we counted our stitches before starting our second row. This is our second row that we're doing. We counted 19 stitches. So when we're done this row, we're going to count our stitches again because we want to make sure that we haven't forgotten any or we haven't added any, because that's a common thing that happens when we're learning. Okay? So let's keep going here. Nice and slow. There's no rush. Oh, get in there. And again. Now, here we go. We have 2 more stitches. We have that one and this one. The last one is sometimes a little difficult to get into. You see? You might have to work it a little bit to get it in there, to get the 2 legs of the stitch. Grabbing your yarn, pulling it through, lifting up a little bit, and there you go. Okay, so that's row 2. Let's count our stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Good. Whoops. We haven't added any or missed any. So now you're going to do your chain 1 and then you're going to turn. And you're going to do that again. You're going to go through here. This first V here is our chain. We're going into our first stitch. And this is row 3. And you're going to do that again. I strongly suggest you do that until you have maybe 5 rows and that your rows are nice and consistent and you have a rectangle. If you have a triangle happening, that means you've forgotten stitches, and I suggest that you undo your work. If you have an inverted triangle, it's getting larger and larger on the sides. Your sides aren't nice and straight. That means you're adding stitches. And again, go ahead, rip your work, undo it, and see if you can figure out where you went wrong. Okay? So do this for 5 rows. Now, I'm going to end the video here, and part 2 will be learning to double crochet and starting our dishcloth. Okay? You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Practice, practice, and come on back for part 2.